The doctor says, I'm healthy. So why do I still wake up feeling empty? My doctor says I'm healthy. My heart's strong. My blood pressure's fine. My cholesterol is perfect. So why do I still wake up every morning feeling like something inside me is missing? That's what Harold, 75, told me the first time we met. He had no major illnesses, no pills beyond the occasional vitamin. His annual physical was, in his doctor's words, ideal for a man his age. And yet, Harold felt hollow. Not depressed exactly, but not whole either. He said mornings were the worst. He'd open his eyes, stare at the ceiling, and ask himself, what am I even waking up for anymore? Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like that? Like the world still moves around you, but you're standing still. Like your body is technically fine, but your spirit is quietly starving. This video isn't just about health in numbers. It's about what your doctor might miss on a chart. Because the truth is, many older adults, maybe even you, walk around every day with a clean bill of health and a silent emptiness no one talks about. In today's video, we'll walk through 3 common reasons why seniors feel this inner void even when everything looks normal. And more importantly, I'll share what you can do to feel full, energized, and connected again. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, because this might be the most honest conversation you've heard in a long time. Harold once told me something I'll never forget. He said, Doc, every test says I'm fine, but no one ever asks how I feel when I'm brushing my teeth, or what it's like to sit in silence for hours and not get a single phone call. That hit me hard because he wasn't talking about physical pain. He was describing something deeper, something invisible. You see, modern medicine has given us incredible tools to measure our bodies. We can scan your heart, check your liver, track your sleep, and print out a chart that looks like perfection. But there is no machine that can measure the slow erosion of the soul. There's no blood test for loneliness, no X-ray for loss of purpose. And often, when seniors like Harold say they're not okay, they're met with well-meaning but shallow words, like, at least you're still healthy, or you should be grateful. But gratitude doesn't fix emptiness. I remember one woman, Eleanor, 79 years old. Widowed children, grown no major illnesses. Every time she visited her doctor, she smiled politely and said she was fine. But at home, she was eating dinner alone by the kitchen window, watching the sun set with no one to talk to. She told me once, I feel like I'm slowly disappearing. It broke my heart, because Eleanor was not sick, but she was suffering. And that's the part many people miss. Health isn't just about organs and numbers. It's about meaning. It's about connection. The National Institute on Aging reported that loneliness increases the risk of death in older adults by up to 45%. That's not a feeling. That's a fact. So if you've been waking up with a tightness in your chest, not from blocked arteries, but from a life that's starting to feel flat, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're human. There's a quiet hunger in many older adults, not for food, but for conversation, for touch, for being seen. And unless we talk about it, many will carry this invisible ache in silence, thinking it's just part of aging. It's not. Harold didn't need more medicine. He needed someone to listen, someone to say, I see you, you matter. That's where healing starts. And in a moment, I'll share the first of 3 powerful steps you can take, starting tomorrow morning that could begin to fill that inner space again. But first, just pause and ask yourself this. When was the last time someone asked how you were really doing? And when was the last time you answered honestly? Harold's story stayed with me long after our first talk. And as I listened to more patients like him, I began to see a pattern, one that didn't show up in their lab results, but echoed in their words, their silence, and their sighs. You see, after a certain age, we're told to slow down, to retire, to rest. And while that may sound like a reward, what no one tells you is how quiet life becomes. At first, it seems like freedom. You can sleep in. You're not rushing to meetings or punching a clock. But then, slowly, something shifts. Days blur together. No one needs you at 8 a.m. anymore. No one asks for your opinion. No one calls just to say, "We need your help." It's not just loneliness. It's the fading of a role, a title, a purpose. I remember George, a retired carpenter who built over 200 homes in his lifetime. After retiring, he told me he felt like an unplugged appliance, still functional but forgotten in the corner. People used to ask me to fix things, to solve problems. Now they just ask if I've taken my pills. That's the hunger I'm talking about. Not hunger for food, but for significance, for being useful, for being seen as needed. The truth is, many older adults carry decades of wisdom, skill, and kindness, but feel invisible in a world racing ahead without them. They don't need constant praise, but they do need to know their presence still matters. And when that inner hunger goes unmet, when your soul keeps asking, "What am I here for now?" that's when mornings start to feel empty. That's when even a sunny day loses its warmth. Because it's not meaningless, people fear. It's becoming irrelevant. But here's what I tell my patients, and maybe you need to hear it too. You don't age out of purpose. You only need to redefine it. And that redefinition doesn't require a big mission or a career comeback. Sometimes it starts with the smallest shift, a daily ritual, a moment of giving, or a single human connection. In just a minute, I'll share one of the most powerful ways I've seen my patients reignite that sense of purpose even without changing their entire lifestyle. But first, take a quiet breath and ask yourself, if I could bring just one moment of value to someone today, what would it be? That question might just be the beginning of your answer. It often begins with something as quiet as a question, not a grand declaration, not a life-altering change. Just a soft question you ask yourself before you swing your feet out of bed. What is one thing I can look forward to today? That's what I encouraged George to do. You remember him, the retired carpenter who felt like an unplugged appliance. We didn't start with fixing the big things. We didn't talk about joining clubs or traveling or chasing some new purpose. We just looked at the first 10 minutes of his morning. I asked him, "What if we could change how your day begins just a little?" So he began writing down one simple thing each morning, something that would give his day shape. On Monday, it was make cinnamon toast and eat it on the porch. Tuesday, call my grandson and ask about his baseball game. Wednesday, trim the rose bush by the window. Nothing fancy. But over time, those little notes became anchors. They gave him rhythm, a reason to rise. There's real science behind this. A study from the University of Michigan found that seniors who have a sense of daily purpose live longer, report higher energy, and are less likely to develop memory loss. Why? Because the brain doesn't just need nutrition, it needs direction. It needs something to wake up for. You don't need a calendar full of appointments to feel alive. You need one honest reason to get out of bed. Something you choose. Not out of obligation, but out of meaning. And I get it. It's easy to dismiss this. Some mornings feel so heavy that even reaching for your slippers feels like a task. But I promise you, purpose isn't about doing more. It's about noticing more. It's about reclaiming those small, almost invisible actions and realizing they still count. They still matter. I remember the day George told me that little list on my nightstand, it saved me from drifting. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a tip. It was medicine for the soul. So tomorrow morning, before the noise of the world rushes in, take a breath. Don't check the news. Don't scroll your phone. Just ask, what would make today feel like mine? And write it down. That's where we begin. Some people think that loneliness is simply the absence of company. But the older I get, the more I believe it's actually the absence of being seen. You can be in a full house with the TV on and the neighbors close by and still feel completely invisible. What we long for isn't just noise, it's recognition. One person who remembers your favorite story. One person who notices when your eyes are tired. One person who calls because they want to, not because they feel obligated. I think of Maria, a 77-year-old woman I met years ago. She used to be a teacher, adored by generations of students. But after she retired, and after her husband passed, her days grew quiet. I have people around, she said, but no one really checks in. They assume I'm okay. What changed things wasn't a grand gesture. It was her decision to call her old friend Teresa every Wednesday just to chat for 20 minutes. At first, it felt awkward. They hadn't spoken in years. But after a few weeks, it became the brightest part of her week. She remembers the old me, Maria said. Not just the version who gets asked if I've taken my pills. There's something deeply healing in even the simplest conversations. According to a study published in the Journal of Aging and Health, regular meaningful contact, even with just one person, can significantly reduce symptoms of depression, cognitive decline, and physical fatigue in seniors. The magic isn't in how many people surround you, but in the quality of those connections. And if you're thinking, well, I don't want to bother anyone, I understand. But let me say this clearly, reaching out is not a burden. It's an act of courage. And chances are the person you're thinking of needs it just as much as you do. You could be the highlight of someone else's week, and they yours. If you don't know where to start, keep it simple. Write a note to an old friend, call a niece or nephew and ask how they're doing. Invite a neighbor over for tea, or even wave at someone you pass on your morning walk. You'd be amazed how often connection starts with something that small. Maria told me once that phone call reminded me I still belong somewhere, and I believe we all need that reminder, especially as we grow older. You don't need a crowd. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need one genuine connection to feel alive again. So sometime this week, I hope you'll take that small, brave step. Reach out, say hello, and see what happens. Because sometimes healing doesn't come in silence. It comes in being heard. Maybe the biggest lesson I've learned after 70 years of living and decades more of listening is this: the most important parts of life aren't the things that show up on a medical report. They're the quiet, immeasurable moments that bring us peace, give us purpose, and remind us we are not alone. Your heart rate might be perfect. Your cholesterol might be in range. But health is more than numbers. It's the joy you feel when someone remembers your name. The warmth of sharing a cup of coffee without having to say much. The strength that returns when you know someone is waiting for you to call. If you've been waking up with that hollow feeling in your chest, please know there is nothing wrong with you. You're not weak. You're simply in need of something. Our culture often forgets to talk about the nourishment of meaning. And here's the truth. Meaning doesn't have to come from big achievements. It can live in the smallest places, writing a morning intention, making a 10-minute phone call, sitting outside, and watching the light change. If you begin each day by asking, what small act can bring me connection, or purpose, or joy, you've already started to heal. There's no magic pill for the emptiness we sometimes feel after 60. But there is something better: awareness, intention, and kindness, both to others and to ourselves. One moment of meaning, one honest connection, one reason to rise, and then another. So take this to heart: you are not invisible. You are still becoming. There are people out there who need what only you carry: your stories, your presence, your care. And if today felt heavy, remember tomorrow starts fresh. All it takes is one small step toward the life you deserve. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one small thing that gives your life meaning right now? Let me know in the comments below. I read every one, and your words might inspire someone else. And if this video offered you value or comfort, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so we can continue walking this road together. If you'd like to support the creation of more heartfelt, research-backed content like this, feel free to contribute a small donation, only if it feels right to you. Until next time, take care of your spirit as gently as your body. You deserve both to be well.